everyone. Welcome to episode 9 of the podcast. Today we're talking about all things travel, places that we've loved and learnings that we've had, and also a bit about solo traveling as a girl.
Okay, so we have traveled quite a bit together. 5 cities, I think: Berlin, Mallorca, Nice, Chicago, and Barcelona. So out of those, tell me about your thoughts, your stories.
I think that traveling with people, you really get an opportunity to learn a lot about someone. And so I'm curious, like, how do you think our friendship has grown? Like, what have we learned from each other or about each other, like, given the travels that we've been on?
Yeah, I feel like because you spend so much time together, it just naturally creates the dialogue, or like you are more vulnerable with each other and you talk more, and like whatever is top of mind in that moment. For example, I think I was really thinking about job during one of our trips. You were really thinking about relationship during one of our trips. It just creates the opportunity to talk about it more with the other person. And I think the other thing is that it really helps vet your problem solving skills together, as well as if you're compatible or not in general. And you don't have to be compatible, but I think it like vets that if you want to go on future trips together.
Yeah. So I guess in terms of the second part you mentioned, with compatibility, like what were some of the things that you discovered?
I think we discovered that we like to do similar things, which is we like to do walking tours, explore the town, visit artistic sites, and we deprioritize things like, I mean, between you and I, like, we deprioritize going to really expensive restaurants. We don't, like, emphasize the hotel itself as much. What made us compatible was, like, we would schedule a certain amount of things each day, but, like, we would be comfortable with also letting certain things go with the flow. I think separate people have separate travel philosophies. Some people are very, like, drill sergeant about it. Like, you have to hit, like, all 7 things in each day. I actually was like that when I was younger.
Me too.
But now I'm more relaxed about it.
Yeah. That's interesting. Let's touch on that a little bit too, because I actually had this very similar combo with my friend like a few days ago, where she thought my Myers-Briggs was a P instead of a J, and I'm actually a J, which
You're
means
obviously a J.
Yeah, I'm very much a J.
Judgmental.
Which J is like, it's supposed to show like how well organized and planned you are, and similar, like when I was like out of college and I traveled for the first time, like literally every day was like jam-packed with stuff. But I feel like over time it's definitely become more chill, and I'm curious like your perspective on that too, like how
it's the luxury of having money.
Yeah,
it's like the luxury of knowing that you can go again and again at this point, and before it was like a scarce, like you have never been before, and it was like the first time you're going and you never know if you're gonna go again. It's like that feeling. At least that was what it was for me. I don't know if you felt that way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Why were you doing it the way that you did?
I think so. I really value experiences and like just making the most out of it. Like, and so I think that's why I jam-packed everything every day, because I was like, I really want to see all these things while I'm here. But I think I realized that it's actually very, very stressful to plan like that and go on vacation like that. And even when I was traveling with people and I tried to do that, it was very stressful for them. So that's why I've kind of adopted a more like hybrid approach now, where it's like a plan, like a few set things in a day and then leave time for exploring. Yeah.
It's a better experience to also leave time for more organic things, because things just pop up spontaneously. Like someone maybe in the country will recommend a spot to you and you want to go check it out together, and if you're so tied to the schedule and things that you set before, then you don't have the opportunity to do so.
Yeah. And like something I want to touch on when we talk about solo travel is like there's actually a lot of things that you can miss when you plan like very structured way. Like you might think that you're covering everything, but there's so many small things that you might experience spontaneously that are not going to be seen in like travel books or like when you look at like top things to do in a country. And like those small experiences are what actually make a trip very interesting and memorable. So I'd say that's why I feel like it's important to not plan by the book on everything. Referencing what you mentioned about the opportunity to be more vulnerable on the trip and like allow for these more organic conversations to happen, because it's literally like just us two together. I think that some like one story that I remember very clearly was when I was talking to you about like my relationship, and I think very similarly, I think I tend to be more of like a closed, more private person, so it's not common for me to be very open and vulnerable. And I think the fact that we developed our friendship a lot by being together alone in a foreign country really allowed me to also feel like this openness and vulnerability with you. And so talking about my relationship at the time was actually fairly new, because in general, like, I wouldn't have this type of conversation with like in group settings and with people that I'm not that very comfortable with. And I think talking through it about the relationship topic with you kind of helped clear my mind on like how I should move forward. And I appreciated how like you're always very direct and honest, and like that's what ultimately helped me kind of wrap my head around like the decision that I wanted to make in my prior relationship. Yeah.
That was crazy. I'm glad I helped you.
Yeah.
Guys, this man was nowhere near worthy of me. Like, that was insane. I'm happy I helped you come to that
Yeah,
conclusion.
but the funny thing was, it wasn't like anything like crazy that you said. It was more your directness. How about for you when you're talking about work stuff and like?
Yeah, I think we talked about this in previous like about corporate life episodes. So I was very conflicted for a long time about my career path and not very courageous about like making the switch or making the jump. So I think one of the trips came at a time when it sort of crystallized that I really needed to make a switch in my mind. And so it honestly is not something that I talk too much or too often with other people about, because I think career path can be pretty personal, and revelations are pretty personal. But the timing of the trip made me like, and also the fact that we were in a completely foreign country, and the fact that I think traveling together does engender trust, because you're problem solving together, and it proves to each other that you're like reliable and like worthy friendship, or like a deeper friendship in that sense. I felt comfortable sharing with you. Yeah, I actually think that's what it is for me, is that being able to prove that you guys can sort of problem solve and like navigate things together when things happen on the fly or spontaneous things occur. One example of this is when we went to go, we wanted to go do a hot air balloon experience, and we found out that it was completely canceled the day of, but we never got a notification. But we were like able to navigate that together without like fighting or someone blowing up, and like I think we handled it pretty well and rescheduled it. I think it's like experiences like that make you realize that this person is like a deeper level of friendship, or like you can trust them with problems to navigate together. Yeah.
Dude, that experience with the air balloon, I still remember we got up at like 4 a.m.
Yeah, we got up so early.
And then we like called the Uber and got to the location and realized it was completely empty. Like no cars anywhere.
Thank God that guy was there.
Yeah. And then the Ubers, like, I think they drove us back, right? So we didn't have to call another Uber. Yeah. What if like the Uber left and we were stranded? I know, that would have been so bad.
But okay, everyone, in hindsight, it's because we didn't have WhatsApp on our phone, which is like a cultural difference. In Europe, everyone uses WhatsApp, so they had messaged us on WhatsApp. We don't use WhatsApp, so we had no idea, never saw the message. And after we downloaded WhatsApp, I realized that we did get sent it. We just never saw it.
Yeah. It's almost like kind of going back to your point about problem solving, it's almost like same as when you're traveling with like your significant other.
Yeah, it is like that.
Yeah, like the fact that you can both kind of with a calm mind like handle a problem without blaming or like getting too worked up about it, and just figuring it out together.
But for that, I think the added layer on that is you have to make sure that you're compatible and living together with your significant other. Whereas if you're traveling with a friend and you figure out you're not compatible, I mean, you can always just get a different room. At the worst of it. And I think most mature people would agree that you can keep the friendship even if you did that.
Yeah, versus if you're with your significant other, like if you couldn't live together, then that's kind of a deal breaker.
What have you learned from your experiences solo traveling? Because I remember you telling me you were not super comfortable with it before, but then you started really enjoying it.
Yeah. So the context with solo traveling is I actually started doing this maybe over the last 3 years, maybe 3 to 4 years. It wasn't something I did in the past. Previously, when I traveled, it was mainly with my significant other or with like a few girlfriends or groups. And I think around 2023 was like a very pivotal time in my life because a lot of change was happening, including a breakup in my relationship, changes in work, etc. And so I wanted to take the opportunity to travel solo because one, like because I value traveling a lot and I didn't want to always be dependent on other people traveling with me in order to go to places I wanted to go. And secondly, I felt that it would be a really cool learning experience to do something on my own, especially in a different country. And so that's when I took the steps to travel to my first international country in Canada. I went to Montreal and Quebec City, which was really great. And then I did a second trip the following year to Europe in Portugal. And I think there were more learnings than I thought I would get from that experience. I think there's a few levels. The first level is, of course, the very personal like learning and development that I got from it. For me, I think solo traveling, especially as a single girl, it allowed me the ability to feel just very self-sufficient and gain a lot more self-confidence in myself because I knew after the trip ended, I realized that I was able to navigate and do a lot of things without depending on other people. And I think that in itself felt very empowering. And then I think another aspect besides the personal development piece is also the growth and like world perspective that I got, that I think like, yeah, it's very like you would assume that you would get a lot of world perspective, but I was able to kind of put it into words better of like what I actually learned. And I think part of it is part of the things that I learned are just like the differences in how people live their lives and how drastically different it can be from what we do day to day. Yeah. And especially like we're kind of like when we're here in New York and living in the US, it's very easy to get boggled down in like just the rat race and like the routine that we have and the type of lifestyle that we live here in the US. And being in Europe, for example, and in Portugal, I was exposed to a lot more people who do like 10 different jobs at the same time. And they're all like middle class workers and they're all like trying to get by, but they're also very, very intelligent at the same time. So you can tell that they have just a lot of dreams and like ambitions that they want to do that maybe they're limited because of the constraints of the countries that they live in. Like, so for example, with Portugal, it's like super, super high taxes. There's like limits in like working in white collar jobs in some places. And so that's why, like, for example, the tour guides that I work with, they have multiple different things that they're working on. And I think just hearing about their stories made me kind of put my life more into perspective, that like, and like think at a higher level and bigger picture, that my problems are not that big. And it actually helped me be less irrational, because in my past I was a very irrational person. Really? Like, yeah, like I would pinpoint small things and get mad at them, and that was actually a challenge in my prior relationship, where I would just pinpoint small things and like blow them out of proportion. And nowadays I'm like, okay, like that doesn't really matter as a problem. And like even like just being more adaptable. I used to be not very adaptable in new situations, but now like traveling, I think the biggest learning was adapting to things that I've never really experienced before, ambiguous problems, and just like problem solving on the spot. And so yeah, I think those were just some learnings that I realized through solo travel, and feel like it's really helped me grow a lot as a person, even over the last like 3 years.
Something that I've come to realize is that the world is not really that black and white. Mm-hmm. Everyone perceives the world through the context of their experiences prior. And that could be right or wrong. And it's not even clear whether it's right or wrong because everyone will have their own sense of right or wrong. I think that's something that's really changed for me since I was younger and something that I've come to realize now, partially because I've gained more perspective from traveling to different places, and the level of context there is so different, and the perception of what's right and wrong is just pretty different. So yeah, I agree. Like, traveling gives you that sort of perspective and context.
Yeah, and then you realize also the perceptions that people have. Like, I realize how polarizing the US is. Like, we know it's polarizing here, but hearing it from the perspective of foreigners too is also very interesting.
Yeah. In New York, like you said, is such a bubble. The Bay is also a bubble.
Yeah.
But if you never step foot outside of that, you probably do lose a little bit of perspective.
All right, speaking of travel, have you ever experienced anything dangerous?
Yeah, so when I visited Marrakesh, we were like, it was past sundown and we were walking back to the Airbnb that we were staying at, which was actually in the heart of Marrakesh. It was like in the middle of, like, the alleys there are not so set, so like you had to go through a lot of winding alleys to get there. And then a group of people started chasing us, and we started running back to our Airbnb, and it was really dangerous. And we actually, in hindsight, we don't even know what they wanted from us, like whether they wanted to pickpocket us, if they wanted to kidnap us, or if they just wanted to scare us. Like, that's unclear, but we ran for like a good 5 minutes, and it was quite scary. And they didn't stop chasing us until we got to the door.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So when you got to the door, then what happened? Like, did you lock yourself in?
We banged on it, and then we ran in. And then, but it's because it's I think it was a larger Airbnb or hotel. There was a host there, so it wasn't just us in the like living quarters anymore. So we felt like it was safe, and it was safe once we got there because there were more people there.
Yeah. And when you banged on it, like, someone immediately opened it, or?
I think so.
Oh my god. Yeah. What if someone didn't? What would have happened?
I know, it was really scary. So that did happen.
How did, like, the start of the story happen? Like, were you just chilling and then suddenly these people approached you, or like?
I think we were just walking, not like fast or slow, and then people, like, it wasn't that big of a group. It was like maybe 2 to 3 people started following us, so then we started running, and then they started chasing us.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's so scary.
I know. So everyone stay safe out there. Try to make sure that you always know where you're going.
What was like your group composition? Was it like guys and girls, all girls?
Yeah. It was 3 Asian girls.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's maybe an interesting topic to talk about. Like, do you think that there are incidences where you feel like just traveling with girls or alone can be dangerous, and like what precautions would you take, or how would you have changed like how you approach traveling in Marrakesh that time?
I think I would have been more careful to like not walk around in an unfamiliar area after sundown.
Yeah.
Without knowing like the lay of the land. Yeah.
I think it's also important to like kind of consider the general safety of a country in general too, and like planning.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if I were going to somewhere that's a little more dangerous, then I may have like a guy or 2 guys also join on the trip. I probably wouldn't travel solo, I think, but if it's like a safer place, then traveling with like 3 Asian girls is probably okay. We did that. Yeah.
And honestly, better safe than sorry. So if it just feels wrong, or even if you have some doubts about it, like, obviously everyone educate yourselves, but safety first. What are the favorite places that you've been to, and why?
So over the last few years while living in New York, I've been really prioritizing going to Europe more. My top countries in Europe have been Switzerland and Portugal, probably my top 2. Switzerland because the Alps are so beautiful. So nature it really ticks the like top 10 in the world, in my opinion. And I also really enjoyed Portugal because I traveled there solo, and I think I had more time and experience to like learn more about the people there and get to know people at a more personal level. And so that's why I feel that I'm able to learn about their pace of life and way of life more than in other countries that I've been with other people. The third country I'd say is Japan. And yeah, I think culturally it's really, really interesting. And you can never run out of things to do there, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where did you go specifically there?
The top 3 that people go as like the first time are Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka.
Yep.
And then one of the times that I went there, I visited my friend who lives there now, and we went more into the countryside in Karyozawa, and it was like a lot more local.
Wow.
More like mainly only Japanese speakers, so I was thankful that my friend could speak. It felt like a very local experience in Japan. Yeah.
I look forward to experiencing that at the end of the year. I probably won't get the as local experience though.
Yeah.
I think I'm doing the major cities.
Right. Yeah. I think as a first time, like doing the major cities is a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think for me, my favorite places are probably the south of Europe, so south of Spain and south of France. Also, like that portion that goes into Italy, that entire like strip of coast is so beautiful. I love it. I think probably architecture is one thing that really jumps out to me. And so one of my favorite trips that I've ever taken is going to Sevilla in the south of Spain because the Alhambra is there. And that was literally like the most beautiful building I've ever seen in my life. I thought it was the most romantic place in the world. And then the other place that I really like is China. So I haven't been back to China for like 10 plus years until last winter. And when I went back, I think it was just incredibly high tech. Everything was so affordable and everything was delicious and also very cultural, and they do a good job of incorporating the culture of like history even into like modern day things, so that's what I appreciated about it. I do have to say that I do speak Mandarin, so it made it pretty easy to get around. I've heard that that is one difficulty that people have.
Thanks for listening to our 9th episode of the podcast. We really enjoyed talking about our traveling and hope you can relate to some of it.
And please, if you've been somewhere really cool that we haven't talked about and you would recommend, let us know, drop a comment. Looking forward to the next one. Thanks, guys.